All right, welcome to another episode of Design on Purpose, the WordPlay Studio podcast. Please like and subscribe. As always, we're trying to grow this channel and we've got a vision, as planet Earth as a garden and work of art for all life. And this podcast is one way of realizing that and having those conversations and bringing that into a reality. So the more that we can share this, far and wide and connect with people and have the conversations that make a difference, the better we all are. So yeah, like and subscribe, share if any of these episodes are resonating with you, if you're finding value in them, send them to your friends and family. That would be greatly appreciated. So episode 14, we have Charlotte Ivey, naturopath. Welcome.
Welcome, Charlotte.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the shack.
Thank you. I'm loving this shack.
Yes.
Do you remember the old shack?
I never saw the old shack.
Oh, you never came?
No.
You never came to Dully and seen the old shack? Oh, okay. It's a rebuild.
It's a replica.
Yeah, it's a replica. It's an artifact. It's one of our artifacts.
Yeah.
I'm just gazing at all the things, all the items.
Yeah.
What's going on, all the history. Notice that up there, that frisbee. I don't know how that got there.
Yes, it's been trapped there for years, actually.
Apparently that frisbee, I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but there is a frisbee up there, Patagonia frisbee. Apparently it's worth a bit of a, it's quite valuable these days.
Yeah. It's a collector's item. So
and it was our frisbee and now it became it. Well, it was your frisbee, but we played it a little bit.
Now it's stuck in the net.
Now it's up there, yeah.
In the fairy lights.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, there's a few quirky things around the shack. A few quirky people too, hanging out in the shack today.
Is that me?
I think it's all of us.
I'm maybe a bit quirky. You both may be a bit quirky too.
No way. No, we're normie as.
Normies.
So maybe just start by telling us a little bit about yourself and about naturopathy, because something that I didn't know what it was until I guess a bit later in life. About the doctor world and pharmaceuticals and all that, and then it's like, oh, what's this naturopathy? But it's, can you, give us a little rundown on what that means?
Well, it can be a word that is hard to pronounce. Naturopathy. I don't know.
Is it naturopathy or is it naturopathy?
Well, exactly.
Which one?
Each to their own. I'm a naturopathy person. That's how I say it.
Okay.
And I mean, sometimes it's a bit of a mouthful. But anyway, you just say naturopath. Just say it quickly.
Naturopath.
Yeah. It's just about treating the root cause of everything. So instead of obviously going to a doctor, which is more like they'll just treat the instant thing. Say you've got like a bad gut, they'll just, I don't know what they do, give you antibiotics. But if you're going to see a naturopath, they'll look into why you have a bad gut in the first place. Is it stress? Is it your environment? Is it everything? Is it your mood? Is it your diet? Like what? Are you allergic to things? Have you got reactions? So we're looking at everything and then using like natural ways to treat the body and treat yourself. So the herbs, the nutraceuticals, referring to even counsellors and things and anything. I'm really interested in mental health and trauma. That's my area.
It sounds like a real systemic approach to health rather than like, because we've been talking a bit about this. I mean, we're systems designers, so I think there's a bit of an overlap there in the sense of how you're approaching somebody's health, because it's like you're kind of looking at the system rather than going directly to the symptom of what's coming through. So,
and the symptom is usually the thing that people come to you for and want some sort of quick fix or some relief around, right? But then as you start to ask some questions, you're like, oh, wait a second, that's, that's related to this, and there might be a whole chain of things, right?
Yeah, and if you keep treating the symptom, it just keeps coming back, right? Because that's not normally the main reason that it's there. There's other things, and sometimes people are so disconnected from their bodies now because of the whole environment and the world that we live in that they just can't work out why they feel that way. So sometimes it's like removing everything and all the things that we think unfortunately now are normal, like things in our food, like additives, preservatives and stuff. Even our environment, like I know you're big on the red light.
Oh, red light therapy, yeah.
The red light.
And the sunshine.
Yeah, the sun, how healing the sun is. And we don't, because we're working inside like 9 to 5, we don't have all these, we don't have the sun. We have all these like superficial, artificial lights, like the computer and stuff. And it's all like damaging for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's damaging. And it's, I want to ask, like, because it's interesting, like when you look at the timeline of how all these artificial things have came into our environment, like, you know, being indoors a lot of the time, these things, you know, the food as well, but also the medicines of today are also like that as well. It's like what we're treating the artificial like challenges or health things with is with more kind of the same thing, right?
More artificial things.
More artificial things. It's like adding more of that into the system, more chemicals, more toxicity or things, rather than trying to repair the like naturally. Why? And a lot of these things are happening because you're doing unnatural things in the first place, right? And
because it's been, say you've got like a medication, because it's been manipulated, it's a pharmaceutical product. So they change the structure of things. So, for example, you've got like a statin.
What's a statin?
So it lowers cholesterol. It's kind of quite big for people that have high cholesterol, but a lot of the time.
But is it a pharmaceutical?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
It's just a medication which so many people obviously now are having like so much inflammation. Their diet is high in like seed oils and things, and it's going to increase cholesterol.
But is cholesterol that bad?
Well, this is the thing. So, I mean, I have a condition which is Familial Cholesterolemia. I can't ever say it. It's a very long word.
That sounds hard to say, the naturopathy.
Just said it quickly. So, and that is where like my body produces too much cholesterol. I don't have enough LDL receptors to clear up the cholesterol in your body. So I have actually very high cholesterol. So I actually need to address my cholesterol levels. Because my cholesterol is crazy. Like my total cholesterol level is like 12 or something. It's very, very high. It's dangerously high. So mine needs to be addressed. But someone else that could go to a doctor that doesn't have like a genetic issue like me could go, and the doctor would see it and say their cholesterol's, I don't know, around 6, or say it's 7 or something. It needs to be lowered, but a lot of the time the doctor can be like, oh, you need to go on statins straight away. And they won't look at other things that that person can naturally lower it. And the statin is actually derived, I believe, from red rice yeast extract, which is a natural compound. The Japanese have been using it for thousands of years. I think even maybe the Chinese as well. But they've changed the compound of it. And when they change the compound of these like herbs even, there's always going to be side effects, because really you're messing with Mother Nature. So herbs that have been used for thousands of years, I know people can say, oh, you know, this natural medicine, but the fact is it's been used for thousands of years because it works. And there is science behind a lot of these things now. I think a lot of the issue now though going on is that people say, oh yeah, trust the science. There's research on this. But if it's a drug that's been out for 2 years and it's new and they've got some research on it, that weighing that against traditional medicine is a bit.
You don't know like the long-term effects of using these compounds or synthesized compounds, right?
And we are natural beings, like we're part of nature. So it kind of makes sense to be working with nature and having things designed for our bodies inside of us.
When did we start to delineate, like, because obviously the pharmaceutical industry is so massive now, it's like, and it also is like the regulatory way of doing things. Like if you're doing anything outside of that system, you kind of get vilified or, you know, shut down or in different ways depending on what you're treating people with. When did that kind of become, you know, shift from these traditional ways of medicines and natural ways of doing it into what we're kind of seeing now, where we're totally so far away from that? Do you know much about that?
I think, I can't remember, but the whole thing with farming changed, and it became, I think what happened was the farming got agriculture became like a big thing, and society just became more about money, and it was less about the whole family environment, and it was more about going out, earning a wage, and then corporations began to take over. And so you weren't just going out and working for your, like providing for your family, you were working and earning money. And then big corporations kind of got involved and began having all this farm like structure and thinking and control and power and owning things.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like you mentioned farming and agriculture, like that's such
There's pharmaceuticals
it's pretty much the same
involved
situation.
in that, isn't it?
Because the plants are pretty much getting treated in that same sort of mentality of like, you know, if it's a monoculture, like coming up with some synthesized or thing to treat the plant with to deal with this part of it, and then that modifies the plant, and then that's what we ended up eating, and then that makes us more sick as well.
Yeah, and because they're thinking about money all the time, and this is obviously like the whole big issue, but they're thinking about money, so thinking, oh, how can we make it easier to grow like X times more of this crop? So they're spraying all the crops with chemicals to stop insects and things, which we actually need, obviously. And so they're spraying it all, and then people somehow think that that doesn't end up in our bodies and our food.
Of course it does.
Well, obviously it does. And it's the same with the food that they're providing the animals. If they're going to feed them the pellets, like cows and dairy, all these pellets, which are GMO, soy, and God knows what else, into the food, and then they eat the food, and then we consume that animal. Well, we're obviously consuming all the animal's toxins as well. Like we don't just consume its protein. There's a lot more than just protein that goes into that animal.
It's interesting. We bumped into, we were at the local leagues club down here like a couple of months ago, and there were some farmers there and I made some mention about glyphosate. I was like, oh, how's that glyphosate off the sugar cane here? Did it, I bet you a lot of that washed into the river, and they were convinced that glyphosate was not a problem at all, that it's not really toxic and you can have a bit of glyphosate. Like they're just the culture around it. They just, that's kind of concerning. I mean, sugar, like highly processed sugar anyway, is probably not great for you, but just the fact that mentality around the glyphosate, like it's still so normal that it like with people having this idea that it's okay.
Yeah, just thinking things are normal, like thinking pharmaceuticals normal, thinking it's normal to be sick all the time now. That's not normal to be sick all the time. If you have a healthy immune system, you'd be sick like once or twice a year and you'd recover quite quickly. But people now, if you notice more and more, they can't really properly recover. They don't fully shift things.
Yeah.
And we know partly probably why that is, but also
that's true, isn't it? Like the immune systems are being destroyed, and you hear about so many people just getting sick again and again and again, and you're right. It's like totally being normalized.
Babies being born with like no immune systems, even.
Yeah,
like that's pretty scary.
That's not normal.
Thinking it's normal to just not breastfeed your baby, thinking it's normal to just give it formula all the time. Well, what about that? What's in that formula? They've got no idea. Okay, it's just milk that's being powdered. What about the quality of that milk? Where is that animal from? What else is added into that milk? There's normally like a lot of vegetable fats and things, which should not even be for human consumption.
That'd destroy your gut straight up, wouldn't it? Like
straight away. And then everyone wonders why there's gut issues and there's all these weight issues and disease. Yeah,
because the gut stuff, like that's something that I got really into because a couple of years ago I had a real issue with my gut. I had I didn't realize, but I had a staph infection and I had all this I just felt a lot of discomfort all the time. Like I had this kind of like parasitic kind of energy. I could feel it. I could actually really feel the consciousness of it in a way, like it was really taking over. And I didn't realize until I actually ended up getting a cyst, which I had to get cut out. But it was, this total, like it was a staph infection. I don't know if it had anything, I don't know if that's possible to get from like mold or whatever it is, because we had black mold in the house we were living previously. But it was a massive journey for me in terms of trying to like flush that out, and I ended up going on all these rounds of antibiotics and it was like killed my whole gut biome, and then I went on this whole journey of like learning about gut health and getting into things like Shilajit and all these things to try and like rebuild my gut, and also I ended up doing a 10-day fast to like clear it out. But yeah, it just like I totally noticed how different I feel, how much more clear I feel in my mind since I went through that journey of like clearing it all out. And yeah, it's just such a huge, you don't realize how huge a part, because you don't see your gut, but it's such a big part of your system. Well, it is pretty much a majority of your system that you don't really realize or think about it too much, but it's like it impacts everything.
And it's like your first brain. I know everyone says, oh, this is your brain and your gut's like your second brain. But really, like all of our intuition, why does everyone say, oh, trust your gut? And if you don't have a healthy gut, you can't really trust your intuition and things as much.
That's true. That's
always think, because it's not clear. You've got all these chemicals in there. And obviously, like most your serotonin is made in your gut, around, they think, about 70%. So if you don't have a healthy functioning gut, then how are you going to think? Because obviously all your neurotransmitters are linked. And they're created like in the gut. There's like probiotics and things help obviously create neurotransmitters. So if you've got bad bacteria, you're not actually going to create those neurotransmitters that you need for good mental health as well.
And we're seeing that, like, we're just mentioning before how they release these pharmaceuticals, and then you don't know what the long-term impacts are. And it's like we're now really seeing the long-term impact of some of these things that have been introduced, mid last century, like glyphosate in the farming, for instance, that we're now seeing all this like systemic damage that it's causing to everybody on mental health, fertility, gut biome. Like it's just like a whole long list of horrible, pretty severely damaging things that are. And it's kind of crazy to think, because I'm pretty sure glyphosate or some of these industrial chemicals were created in the war, and then after the war they decided to start using them in the agriculture, and it's like, what the, like when you start to think of like how did this ever even get to come about, and think that it's like not going to be a harmful thing.
There's a dollar to be made there, isn't there?
And they do one study and they peer review it. One person peer reviews it because that's okay, because they're a professor or something. And then all of a sudden it's completely safe and it's being used. I'm not saying I don't know that happened for glyphosate, but that's how easy it is to peer review something though.
Water fluoridation. People think you're a bit nuts if you say anything about fluoride, but they don't realize that it's hydrofluorosilicic acid. It's not sodium fluoride. And it's like same thing. It's like the water's under attack too. Like we don't drink it, but it's like, they think it's good for your teeth. That's the marketing that's applied to it. It's good for your teeth. It's good for your teeth. It's good for your teeth. But if you go to the dentist and they put fluoride on your teeth, they tell you to spit it out because it's a neurotoxin. Exactly. But it's like, why are we drinking it in the water?
And once it passes past your teeth, like it
goes
much further past your teeth.
And it's
good for your teeth. It's like, oh yeah.
It's bioaccumulative, so it like collects in your body, and it actually, I think it does an exchange with calcium, so it flips the calcium, the fluoride and calcium flip out of your bones. I think your body tries to like not take on the toxins by replacing the fluoride with the calcium with the fluoride. So then you end up with like brittle bones and like, arthritis and things like that. I mean, where does that, why is that so prevalent? But just what it does to your brain and it, the calcification of your pineal gland and everything. It's just like, but it's in every city water supply. I think Byron might have I think they rallied to not have it in the water supply, but then there's that and chlorine. And around the 50s, they had all this with fluoride. They had all this, what was it? It was like a byproduct of phosphate fertilizer and aluminium. That's the byproduct. It's the hydrofluorosilicic acid. And like,
that's the byproduct of
producing those things. So it's like, okay, well, what do we do with this? Well, let's turn it into a product and start selling it to the city water supply. But once you start going down that track of working out what fluoride actually is, and you realize how they use that in the war as well. And I think there's actually record of that, like in concentration camps and things like that, putting it in the water supply because it makes people subservient and obedient and things like that. So it's like it's not good for your brain and your ability to think, critically.
And that's the thing though now. You have to actually just do a bit of extra work if you want to stay healthy, and you can't just go and drink the tap water. You can't turn on a tap and drink the water, which is so crazy when you think of it. Like everyone should have access now. You would have thought to just healthy water. Even fluoride, there's so much more stuff that goes in that water.
Oh, so much.
I mean, imagine if you're cleaning that filter, if you have like an in-house one, and you look at all the stuff that comes out of that filter, and that's just going in your body.
That.
It looks disgusting.
It's like dark brown. We've changed that.
Like an ad off like a ciggy packet, like that kind of gangrene-y looking, because it's this white beautiful thing when you put it in, and then by the end
it was
just
like
looks
brown, wasn't it?
Looks like pure disease, like on it.
And you have to kind of use your intuition guide, and you just think, well, even if the packet of the new filter says, oh, change it every 6 months, well, maybe you're living in an area or you're using a lot more water than they reckon, like they're kind of assuming. So change it every 3 months. Just like always have to stay on top of these things. And same with like food, buying organic. Okay, it's more money, but you're actually
so is dealing with the cost later.
It also keeps you satiated, like when you eat good quality food, because it's actually your body's actually getting nutrition. So you don't actually need to eat as much food when you eat good quality food.
I noticed that. And also your body's not dealing with as many toxins. It doesn't have all the pesticides and things in the food as much. So it's just easier on your body. It's a lot more.
What are, like, we know you're into a lot of, you're good with using food or different things as remedies to deal with like all this toxicity and stuff in the environment. What are some things you do that you, I guess, I don't know, for people listening, you could recommend at like a broad level, or I don't know if there's some interesting things you want to share around what we could be doing to mitigate some of these?
So for detoxing, I actually love, which I know not everyone loves, especially guys don't normally love this, but Colonics. I don't know if either of you have ever had a Colonic.
I have actually. I had one after my fast.
How did you feel?
It was awesome, actually. It was good. I went to there's one in town here, a colon health clinic. And it's good. Like they also put I think they also do a flush after with like, I don't know if it's some kind of tea or like, and magnesium, things like that. Oh. I think so.
Didn't you say it's like one of the best in the?
I think it's like, it was quite good. I'll take you by there.
Is it one of those open? So for people listening, there's like an open system and a closed system, and I only ever recommend, well, personally, like the closed system, because I went to go and use an open system before and it was just...
What's an open system?
Can you explain what those are?
It's an absolute shit show. Can I say that? Anyway, I've just said it.
It's pretty appropriate for what we're talking about, right?
I thought it was a closed system. That's all I knew. And I went once. Because when you're travelling somewhere...
I don't know what are you talking about?
Maybe just let's start with what is a colonic, because not everyone might not know that.
Come on, let's get into the deets.
Let's get into my favourite area of poo. Because I know everyone's like, this is disgusting. I don't want to talk about poo, but we do it every day and you need to have good healthy poo. If you don't have good healthy poo, then you need to fix your gut, because your poo tells you a lot of stuff. So you should be checking your poo every day. If you're not. Anyway, Bristol Stool Chart. Look that up. Okay, anyway, colonic. So a colonic basically is, I'll say this as nicely as I can, it's just like a gentle wet method, and it's used to flush out all your old fecal matter out of your gut, and rehydrates it as well with like the water that goes in, and it will flush everything out. So if you've got gut issues.
And it's coming in from...
Oh, so basically like put a tube up. I'll get into the nitty gritty.
Go for it.
Just put a tube up there. So you just kind of go in. Go in.
Up
the
hole.
Just making sure we're clear.
Anyway, yeah. So you lay there. You basically will go in, and then the therapist will say to you, just lay on your side and stick your bum out, and then she'll just put a tube up there. That's the closed system. And then the tube.
Yeah, that's what I did. It's like it's like gravity, right? You can feel the pressure as it's going in, and then they release the pressure, and then it comes out.
They fill you up with water.
Yeah, that's right.
And then they say to you, let me know when you feel full, and you just feel this like sense of
you feel the pressure.
Yeah, you feel like you need to go to the toilet.
And then they
like
release,
and then you will just see stuff. So they can actually see the stuff.
They have a clear tube and they can see. Well, when I went to mine, I was completely, like, because I'd fasted for 10 days, and she goes, well, you're not full of shit, are you? And I'm like, no, I'm not.
Sometimes I would say for that, it's actually good to have a meal or two, even like a few meals, and then wait until you have the colonic, because you get kind of like stuff that your body's still in a fasted state for a while afterwards. It's still holding on to all the nutrients that are coming in. Sometimes if you wait a few, like even a day or so, until you've got that first round of digestion like going, and then you go in. But yeah, it's good. It's amazing when you're doing that. So anyway, that's the closed system.
Okay, that's what I did, yeah.
The open system for me was a bit traumatic.
What's the open system?
I feel like my mind just has blurred it a bit, but you just go, and she's like, go and lay down on this. It was like this kind of bath, but it's not a bath. It's a table from what I remember. And she'll just you put a tube up there yourself, and you kind of just do it all, and it's just stuff everywhere. Just shit.
What do you mean? You're like lying in it?
It's not a tube that just cleanly leaves.
It's just all there.
It's like you're on some huge toilet seat. Anyway, I wasn't a fan. Charlotte,
that sounds horrible.
What's the
just the closed system, just cleaner, and
so there's no medical health difference.
I mean, there's
it's just a different experience.
I think
a bit of a closer.
A closed is a lot. I feel like it's a lot safer because it's somebody's there, like doing it with you.
Yeah, it sounds like a quite intimate experience.
Yeah, I mean, would you get one?
I would get one. Yeah. I've thought about it for ages, but I just haven't ever gone and done it. But
it's quite cool. I'd go again.
You feel really good afterwards. Like your mind just feels, because obviously
clear.
It feels clear.
And you feel like they hydrate you as well. Like I'm pretty sure they put I don't know if it was green tea. Does that sound right? Or maybe chamomile or something. I think they put some tea through and like some magnesium through as well.
Sometimes I do coffee because it can speed up like the methylation.
What causes bowel cancer? Because bowel cancer is a really big thing, right?
Yeah.
And this is obviously dealing with your bowel, right? That's what it's doing, right? Is that like what does the colonic do for you, like health-wise?
So it's if you think of it, how often do people are walking around and they don't go every day, or they're walking around and they're eating things which really
full of toxins. Full
of toxins and packaged food. Like you look on the back, most people would not be able to tell you half the things in that packet, and it's just staying in the gut, and it builds up, and it's like everyone has think about fungus as well. How many times do people once a year think, oh, I'm gonna have a fungal check and just take some antifungals? Like I always say, people will worm their pets, but do they actually ever worm themselves? And it's just kind of, nobody gets rid of bad bacteria anymore, it feels like. They're not eating all the herbs in their diet like they used to. Like we used to be eating loads of herbs, I feel like. But with all these processed food, nobody's eating fresh herbs and things that help carry all this bad bacteria out of our bodies. So it's like a build-up. I mean, and then there's other things like deep, obviously, like trauma and stress and things that go. But we hold a lot of emotions in our gut as well. So I feel as well it's a big emotional thing when you have all these like cancers and things, and even Crohn's, like autoimmune issues. You hold a lot of energy there, and I mean
IBS.
Yeah,
that's true. Yeah,
you think of how when you're really stressed, your body goes into like a fight or flight mode. And you lose appetite because you can't.
That's true.
You can't think properly. You feel a bit sick. You're just so anxious. So, and when you're in a fight or flight and you're really anxious and stressed, you're actually really damaging your microbiome in your gut. So I always say to clients, I'm like, the first thing you should be doing if you're going through like a stressful time is taking a good probiotic and taking some herbs to work on your like adrenals and your nervous system. Because if you've got a calm nervous system, your gut will also be fine. But if you're stressed, then you're not going to be able to process and eat food and digest it correctly. And then you have all these issues. Like, how many times when you've been stressed is your skin bad?
Well, it's massive, isn't it? I think like the stress was something that really was when I had that staph infection, like impacted that, because I think the stress it impacted my chemistry in my body, which made me, I think, more prone to getting the infection. But it's like, I've been reading this book recently called Why Zebras Don't Get Ulcers. It's a really good book, and it talks about like, you know, your system and why, and I'm not all the way through yet, but what I've gathered so far, it's like, you know, we live in a time now where we're surrounded by stresses like bills and, you know, paying rent and job stresses. You're constantly expected to be online because your phone, so you're constantly activated, having to be alert and responsive to all these external factors. So we live in such a different environment, but our body is still like, it's still wired for like, you know, living outdoors in a simple way. So it's like we haven't adapted to that environment where those stresses are happening. So it's like you're constantly in fight or flight, or like your adrenals are constantly activated. The chemistry in your body is constantly being impacted by these stresses. And it's just like, you know, and I've been actively trying to like remove stresses in my life so that I can manage my gut health, because it's, you know, it's one impacts the other and each way around. So it's like, it's such a big part of it, and just balancing that, and talking to the fungus as well. It's like I did notice, like I said to you, the consciousness of that infection. Like you can really feel it. Yeah. Like, because it kind of like it is parasitic. Like it felt like it was like tapping into my system, like controlling, because it does it controls
what we crave.
Yeah, well, that's right. Like wanting certain foods, like or like things with like sweet sugar or like gluten, or like things that were gonna not make me feel great, but like was gonna feed the parasite, right? So and the mood, like just kind of depressed. It also impacted my posture, I think, as well. It was kind of like pulling me for like just the whole thing. And like I've just been like unraveling it all and clearing it all out. And I've got a long way to go, but I feel like I'm finally kind of starting to understand some things which I didn't really realize before.
And that's a really good thing about when you have like that awareness. So most of the time people crave these foods, but they forget, they're like, oh, I've got this craving, I just can't help it. But as soon as you think you have a craving, okay, there is a difference between having a craving and needing something that supports your body, that's healthy, like nutritionally. Like, some people, like, you have a craving for like red meat sometimes because your iron's low or something. But when you're craving sugar and things, I always say to people as well, I'm like, but that it's not actually you craving that. That's normally like bad bacteria. And then as soon as you have that awareness, like, oh, that's not actually me, it's like you kind of have more power over it, because you're like, well, I don't need that. And also notice how so this is why herbs are actually so amazing, and people should be having more herbs in their diet. If you're having a craving for something really sweet, say you've had your dinner and afterwards you're like, oh, I could really have some chocolate, go and have a spiced, like a hot drink, like turmeric lattes. I always recommend people to have them because they're amazing. Try and have something like that afterwards. And it's like, because it has antifungal properties and antibacterial, you'll have that drink and you won't really, you have so much more willpower to be like, actually, don't really need that anymore. And you won't crave it as much.
Turmeric's great too. Doesn't it kick off like atrophy? No, how do you say that? Is it atrophy?
Well, it's like a natural, it's actually really good for detoxing as well. It's really good for like liver. It helps lower cholesterol. And it has loads of antimicrobial properties. It's like good for the blood, everything. It's like I feel like it's like a superfood. People should have it more. But to get a therapeutic dose, you'll probably need about a teaspoon at least. Like, so having like a tiny bit. I mean, it's going to help still, but
I like it. I like to do the turmeric in the in a bit of lemon juice. It's nice. It's
like
good.
A shot kind of thing.
Yeah, or just like make a drink with turmeric, lemon juice, water, ice, like a little mocktail, turmeric mocktail.
I love turmeric.
Me too.
So good. Like, especially in food, like cooking with it and like having a lot of it though. But you do feel really amazing after eating turmeric, whether it's your energy or just like, I don't know, just have this, like, even when you just drink it, like with water or whatever, like iced or hot or whatever, you're like, yum. Like you feel your body react to it and it's like
Superpower.
invigorating, yeah.
And jamu, isn't that a thing with turmeric?
Jamu. What's that?
Isn't it? Or
Tell me
jamu or
more.
something? Doesn't everyone have that in Bali?
What's
They
jamu?
have turmeric. Don't quote me on this. Like it's turmeric, ginger. It's like all the spices, and then they have it in a shot.
Oh, nice.
Lemon.
Sounds good.
I'm sure it's called that. But it's probably
Let's
not
look
called
it
that.
up after.
It's a shot, and
it's
it's,
not
it's
called
really
that.
good.
Sounds like
Start
it should be
juicing this
something.
stuff. It's kind of spicy. Anyway, jamu.
Jamu. So what else? So we've covered colonics and herbs.
Colonics.
What about like, you know, being somebody like an entrepreneur today, like, you know, with stress in their life, you know, like how do you recommend people kind of like balance that out, and like what kind of things can people do to alleviate stress or like to look after their guts and themselves within a stressful environment?
Okay.
Well,
Yeah. So there's the lifestyle, and then there's like the food and the herbs and stuff. So probiotics, because I know some people will be like, well, that's not natural taking a probiotic, but probiotics are an amazing thing that we really should be taking. Not, I mean, all the time, but when you're going through, like I said, the stress before, you take a probiotic that really, really helps not mess up your gut and things. There's so many amazing herbs for stress. So many. You can
Tell
take,
us.
Where do I start? There's like, teas. Teas are nice for people because
And not just any herbs, right? Like
no, don't go taking any herbs because every
need the
herb's
right
different.
herbs.
The right
Yeah,
herbs.
right?
So
'Cause
oats.
you can get glyphosate herbs too.
You don't. Yeah, get your organic herbs. Organic herbs, people. You can oats amazing if you're not gluten intolerant.
Oats.
Oats. And oat seed. So oat seed is a herb. Yeah, very calming, a very like nervine tonic. So it's like nurturing. That's nice. Passion flower is amazing, and it's really good for, you know, when you have those thoughts and they go like you're around in your head and you kind of don't stop. Passion flower is amazing for just like stopping that.
Oh, wow.
What else? Lavender, very calming, very nice. Like you can just put that on your pillow like an essential oil if you didn't even want to have it in a tonic. I love kava. Kava is one of my favourite herbs.
Kava, like Fiji
It's
kava.
amazing, yes.
Doesn't that get
tried
you
it?
high?
No, it makes you very zen. It's a muscle
like a-
relaxant.
Oh, it's a
Roots.
relaxing. Oh, that's
Yeah.
right. In Fiji, I've seen some people real
Relax
on
there,
the
right?
cover, and they're trying to eat something and they can't feel their mouth, so they go
Yeah.
like
It makes
this.
you a bit numb.
I mean,
doesn't it?
if you've got liver issues, then you should probably stay away from kava. But you can take. I call it my chill pill because I can get quite anxious sometimes. I'm a sensitive Sally, so I will carry around. I'm not good on liquid herbs because you can take obviously the liquid. So naturopath will I would prescribe people liquid herbs, but you can also, if you don't really like the taste, some people gag when they take these herbs. So you can take tablets or you can have tea. You need more tea though.
I've tried taking the what is it, chlorella and cilantro herbs like droppers, but I can't
It's
do
strong.
it.
It's
I
'cause-
can't do it. It's so intense.
Yeah. And you have to think as well, if you find it intense, are you going to have it every day? Are you going to be able
can't
to
do
do
it.
that every day? Like ask yourself, because if you won't, then I can prescribe you tablets, like tablet format and compound things for you. You know, so
That's what I did. I got the cilantro tablets, so I take those now.
yeah, and then you can take it every day. Valerian as well. People always think, oh, valerian is just a sleep herb. It's actually amazing for anxiety and calming you. And you don't obviously have to have as much because you're not going to go to sleep. Mexican valerian is even stronger than the normal valerian. So there's all these things that you can do with the herbs. And then you can obviously do other things like I love ice baths.
We love them too.
I love an ice bath. I mean,
The chili willies.
Don't you have the chili willies?
Yes. Little group ice bath. So nice. And it's like a community thing as well. So people come over, do some breath work. You have like 10, 15-minute breath work. And then you get in the ice, which is usually 8 bags of 5 kilos of ice.
We should do one here while you're here.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
I'm down.
Cool.
And then have a fire afterwards. But as soon as you get in the ice.
You feel good.
Huh?
With a fire.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You get in the ice and you just forget all your worries because you're absolutely freezing.
You forget all your worries, that's for sure.
And everything else.
You need to just focus on surviving, breathing.
I like the schwitz too, the sauna.
Oh, I do love a sauna. That's good for stress.
It's great for stress.
I feel so
relaxing,
good.
yeah.
I've been taking actually my you've seen my red ball, my lacrosse ball that I carry around everywhere for my myofascia release, but I actually went in the sauna the other day and took that in with me, and the myofascia release with the schwitz double combo. So good. Magnesium pool.
What do you think about just think about like entrepreneurship and this stuff, and people like really about performance and like focus and like there's this whole movement with nootropics and things like that, where a lot of them seem to be geared around working more or like getting more and more work done or this done or, you know, which kind of puts you further into the the sympathetic sort of state, which we're trying to like balance out and get more into. So what do you have an opinion on nootropics and some of those sorts of things that are popular at the moment?
Well, like you said, I feel like they should be used. Everything is in moderation, and you have to kind of look at when, like, even if someone would come to see me and say for example, they were a workaholic and they're like, I need something for concentration and stuff. It's like, well, you can only do so much work. And even if you had loads of like nootropics and herbs to help you focus, well, you're going to get burnout. Even if you're having all these herbs for concentration and making you more like energetic and things, it's still going to cause an imbalance in your body. So treating the root of it is looking at why that person needs to work so much in the first place, and like looking at the lifestyle that they've got. And it's probably more about the nervous system and looking at other ways to address the need to work and calming the nervous system so they don't feel that, and probably looking at, there's probably other things going on that person though, right? Like money and
financial stress is a massive one, isn't it? Because it puts you in like full survival mode, and then you just get really out of balance. You know, there's been times where we've definitely been impacted by that, and like, you know, going through the whole, you know, I won't say the C word, but, you know, going through the whole
situation.
The whole situation with lockdowns and everything. I mean, Tom and I lost like so much work through that period because we did a lot of our work in person. We've pivoted and now we do a lot of work online and starting to do more in person. But yeah, that really impacted us and put a lot of stress on us. And I'm sure there's like, you know, a lot of people around the world experiencing the same thing. So it's like, you know, that when the balance goes out, it can really throw everything.
The more, like, as it starts going out, the more it goes on, the more it's exponential too, right? Like, because when stress starts to take over and you allow it to keep continuing, it can just go and go and go and go and go, you know, without, like, the seesaw will just keep ticking.
Then you're creating an environment in your body where it's not balanced, right? So it's like you're then bad bacteria's then starting to take over, isn't it? Because the chemicals aren't right. Like what's actually happening in your body when you're stressed that's causing this stuff?
When you're stressed, well, think about this as well. Say for example, you have no money and you're just absolutely panicking because you've just lost your job. So your whole nervous system is completely dysregulated already. You have things as well when so there's a million things going on in your body. You lose your blood sugar level increases. That's why people start eating rubbish as well when they're stressed, if you notice, and you're tired.
Oh yeah.
You're craving all these carbohydrates and things
and sugars and things.
Yeah, your insulin's out of whack. And then obviously with the gut microbiome, which obviously
we call it the butt-giome.
Butt-giome. I like it.
Yes.
But that gets completely dysregulated. You start losing all the good bacteria. you can't digest properly. You get issues like constipation. Maybe you get diarrhea if you're the other type. And then obviously because you have that, your immune system then goes out. You're getting sick more.
Then it's just
And
like a
then
downhill
you can't
spiral.
afford to eat healthy as well. Yeah, you don't sleep properly. And then
Stressing more.
yeah, you get more stress.
The sleep is a really big
it's
one.
Big.
It's big. Like I wasn't doing this right. Like I've only just started to get the sleep thing down. Like I really, like I've been adjusting a few things in my life, but like you see me last night, I'm really into the blue block like glasses. They've been an absolute game changer. Got myself a really good pillow. The
What kind of
Duplo.
pillow?
Oh, it's been the best. The Duplo. I think it's called a Duplo. It's a memory foam pillow. The medium height. You can get them in different heights, but it's just like the best ever.
The Barefoot Investor recommends
The Barefoot Investor. Oh, yeah, he plugged it too on his book. But that's where I got it. Like, yeah. So that, and then like not realizing that you have to sleep in a pitch black room because your eyelids are really thin, and when light goes in, it actually doesn't allow you to deeply sleep. So, like I used to sleep with my blind open, thinking, oh, it's more natural to like, you know, wake up with the sunrise kind of thing. But now I'm like shutting the blind. I put those blue blocks on, and I'm like, I already feel so relaxed before I get to sleep, and I just have the best quality sleep. And just my day is just, I just feel so much better in my day just because I've had the right sleep, and not just the right amount of sleep, but like good quality sleep. Huge.
Because if you wake up in the night several times, things like that will spike your blood sugar level the next day. Or you notice how when you have disrupted sleep, you wake up and you're actually more hungry, usually, and you don't crave the healthy like protein or fats and green veggies and things that you would. You'd be like, oh, I'm just going to have a smoothie. I mean, maybe people aren't as healthy as me, but what do they crave in the morning? Like a McDonald's.
Tub of ice cream.
A croissant.
A Portuguese pastry.
Oh, don't give us away, Charlotte.
Porto.
Hello.
They call them down there.
Porto.
Porto. That's what they call them.
What?
Having a Porto.
Having a Porto.
Portuguese style.
What a key.
Yeah, that's what they call.
So good.
Keithy pastry.
That's one of our
My kryptonite.
kryptonite.
We will allow kryptonite. Balance.
And what about mental health? Like you said, you're very passionate about mental health and trauma, and like and that's obviously a whole nother situation. Like we could probably talk for days on that, like with mental health. But it's like, especially with the rise in mental health, especially after the last couple of years and the rapid increase of instability in people's mental health, treating those with these pharmaceuticals as well. Like, but it's also, you know, there's so much to it. I've been in, you know, like I've got people around me that have severe mental health issues, and it's like,
Not me, by the way.
no.
Well, I'm joking.
And it's like hard to, like, it's like, where do you even start dealing with that? Like, you know, there's levels of it. Like you can be stressed. That's a poor mental health, you know, like there's different things. And then there's like, when you get to the point of being diagnosed with something and then treating it, and then how do you ever get off that bandwagon once you're on there?
I always think as well with people making these diagnoses, it's like just puts people in a box, which is so, because I think everyone should be treated individually, and someone can say, oh, you're going to like chronically diagnose you with X, Y, and Z, or schizophrenia or something, and I don't know, maybe it's not as bad as the other person, or maybe it's slightly different, but
It's very complex, whatever it is.
So
isn't it?
complex.
That stuff.
And also with these pharmaceutical medications, some people actually feel worse when they take them because it's not actually addressing what's going on in their body. And that's why I'm quite big on genetics and doing the right testing for mental health, and things like methylation and things.
Oh, yeah. Can you talk
Yeah.
about that? Because you just did that test
Yeah.
recently, didn't you?
Well,
What's the methylation? What's that about?
so methylation, every part of most cells in our body, like pretty much all of us, we all have to methylate in our bodies. Like every cell does it. It's just a process in our body. And I feel like it's just going to be...
Is it like the cell's cleaning itself, or
Yeah, and it's
cleansing
for
the
them
cells,
to function
right?
and work. Like they just methylate.
How do you know if you're methylating or not?
Well, everyone methylates, but you can under-methylate and over-methylate. And you need things like zinc, you need B6, you need folate. There's all these magnesium, there's all these chemicals which help and will support, are required for methylation. So people can have now genetic SNPs and they're born with them, or mutations. And what happens is these mutations and SNPs mean that you're not methylating properly. And you wouldn't realise. You go and get a blood test though, and you can actually see through characteristics. So I can check someone's blood and say they've got like a really low level of folate. That's a bit of a red flag. Something could be going on.
What's a folate?
Folate. So you need folate for like to make and produce neurotransmitters. You need it to save pregnant women. Obviously, you might have heard about it for growing like cells. That's why it's so important in pregnancy. And some people naturally don't methylate the folate correctly, so it can't be used in the body correctly. And if you're not methylating, for example, folate, you're not going to have good mental health because you can't produce the neurotransmitters. So you can find out, and that's what I was saying to Tom before, like you can find out if you have a gene SNP or a dysfunction. But the main thing is finding out is what part of the methylation cycle you have an issue with. So then what you do, you just think, okay, so that person actually has really low folate. I'm going to prescribe them some methylated folate and some other nutraceuticals potentially, like magnesium or zinc or some B vitamins, some activated. So then you find out, and once you've done that, you can actually notice that not just their mental health, but their detoxification, because usually if you're not methylating properly, you can't detoxify correctly. And you notice all these other things start working in your body a bit better. So people could have hormonal issues for years, gut issues for years, and then they go and find out. You work with them and you do some testing on them. The testing's about $400, but it's kind of worth it. People are getting diagnosed with like depression or something, right? Like that could also be these sorts of things. Like it causes,
is this related to mental health?
So it can cause a depression, and I think it's about 75% of people, or 80% of people with depression actually do have gene issues. So they need extra support with the neurotransmitters and the things like magnesium to support neurotransmitter synthesis. So I'm really interested.
So it's like genetic in a way that you're getting like through your genetics, you're getting these irregular or deficient gene SNPs that then are signaling you, and then as well with all the shit in the environment and whatever else you've got going on in your life, layers that all up. But then you can actually address it from like in these different like levels, right? Like starting with.
I always see genetics as like the main thing in health. Like if you don't have good genetics, you have to look at that, because nothing else is going to function. You can take all the supplements and herbs and eat really good nutrients and it will help. But if you're not looking at the genetics and what you actually need to help make your genes function optimally, then nothing will ever be completely fixed. Does that make sense? You could just need some extra magnesium. Like I did a methylation test, and I naturally had low magnesium. I had low SAMI.
What's SAMI?
I can't ever pronounce it. Don't ask me to pronounce it.
Okay, sorry about that.
SAM, and then it's like a lower E, but it basically helps with serotonin. So my SAMI, and you need magnesium for SAMI, and you need zinc, and you need like B6.
Yeah.
So because I wasn't having enough magnesium, I wasn't able to produce enough SAMI, and my mood was slightly lower. I did actually notice when I was taking magnesium, it did change a lot. It was my digestion and my mood.
I take the magnesium. I'm into the magnesium. I buy like a really good quality magnesium, because there's different types of magnesiums, aren't there?
Yeah, there's so many different types.
Yeah, so like I get like a magnesium complex and I take that. But like, because that helps you hydrate right? Magnesium as well. Like because I'm doing all that myofascia release, which also actually is like trauma, like, we store trauma in our fascia. And, I'm taking that to kind of like rehydrate the fascia. But I really notice it, the magnesium, and how much more hydrated I feel, how much more nimble I feel in my muscles, and like the tightness in my muscles when I take it.
And different types of magnesium work differently in our body. So we can take magnesium glycinate, is amazing for sleep.
Oh, that's true, sleep as well, isn't it?
Sleep. You can take magnesium threonate, which is amazing for crossing the blood-brain barrier. So it's really good for concentration and focus. Some people, and everyone's different as well, because you can read things and it will say, oh, this magnesium is great, but maybe you take it and you're like, oh, actually, I don't really notice much. So maybe you're better on a magnesium citrate or something. And that's why sometimes when you look at magnesiums, it's good to get like a mixture of the types.
Get the good shit.
Yeah. It's worth paying a bit more and getting good quality, because a lot of those times if you go to a chemist or something, you're buying a magnesium and it's got all these other things in it.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about, like Paul Check talks about that a lot.
The magnesium.
Yeah, there's what's his name, Wade Lightheart or whatever from Symbiotica, or I think the company is, or something. They got that mag breakthrough, and they just talk talking about how the wrong magnesium's not going to do you any good.
No, and there's so many excipients in brands and products now. You can actually check in Australia. You check on the TGA website, and it will tell you. You type in that product name, it will tell you the excipients that's in there.
What's that?
There's a lot.
What's excipients?
So things like the maltodextrin, the cornstarch, all these different things that get added to help bind it or to keep it okay in date and stuff. But sometimes I feel like companies add a bit more things that aren't natural.
Like more weight to it. Huh? Like it's like just adding a bit of...
Yeah, let's just, it's so true. It is. You read it, I'm like, I'm not buying that.
Yeah. And where does someone go to do a methylation test?
A naturopath.
Do you offer methylation tests?
I do. I do. I think it's really important though for getting to the bottom of things, and just for general health as well. So it's just actually, it's like a blood test. But
it's like a swab, don't you do with your saliva?
So that's the gene test you can do.
MTHFR one, right?
Yeah.
That's it.
Tom's a mutant apparently.
You're a what?
Tom's a mutant.
Why, what's wrong? You've just got...
No, I had the mutated gene on my test.
He's a mutant.
The MTHFR one.
Just was it fully, I'm guessing?
Yes, I think so.
I'll have to find out. But you have the gene, so that means that...
I'm under methylating.
You're under.
Yes.
Did it tell you that?
Oh, well, that's what I got told.
Okay.
So I don't know.
Yeah, because you can over
talk more about it.
Do you think he looks like a mutant?
Potentially. I'm joking. Yeah, that methylation test though is quite.
I'm actually CGI. I'm not even here.
What's the CGI? Oh, okay, CGI. Get you. Technical talk. It's too much for me.
I don't think so, Charlotte. We know what. We know what you're
Naturopathy.
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 Mm-hmm. Sorry. Is there more on that? I was going to ask about blood testing too, like because you've spoken about that with, like when we've chatted before. Like, how important is that? What do you do about blood? Like, I just realised I haven't had my blood tested in ages. I'm like,
how long's ages?
Oh, years.
Tom.
Yeah, I need to go do it.
What's going on? Get yourself to the doctors.
Next week I'm going.
Yesterday. Just go now.
Can you look at, I got my blood test done. Can you look at my blood test and let me know what's going on?
Let you know.
Because even then, like, I feel like it's so, like, the medical system here is so, like, not up. It's not great.
It's not.
Well, naturopaths aren't legally allowed to take blood, right? Which isn't that crazy? But you got to go to the. Is that not? Is that?
I mean,
like you guys.
I don't know what the story is there, but I got my blood tests done, at a pathology lab, like, but the doctor doesn't really go through it. Like they go, oh yeah, you're good. But there's no, they're just looking for cancer and shit like that.
And you're dying.
Common things.
Well, that's it. But even when I was on the phone on hold, like it was like, it's like cancer management or, you know, cancer management center or something like this when I was on hold. It's like, you know, on the music and the hold music, and it was talking about like that. It was going through this whole thing about the clinic, and it's like a cancer management services and things like that, or disease management, and I'm like, that's it. Like they're just looking. They're looking for management. They were looking for customers, right? They're just looking for. They're scanning your blood to see if you're a customer. It's not like they're scanning your blood to see if you're to actually help you and just see if you're healthy or what's going on. And like we've got a lot of Brazilian friends, and like the health system in Brazil, like doctors in Brazil apparently are just so thorough. Like you have to really beg here for like a test or to see a specialist and things like that. But in Brazil, like when you go to the doctor, apparently they do a full scan, they test everything. And like you hear a lot of like my Brazilian friends going, oh, yes, you know, I can't wait to go back to Brazil and see my doctor or see my dentist or whatever it is, because, you know,
you think it'd be a pretty good standard here, like, but.
It's because Medicare, they basically pull up the doctors if they're doing a lot of tests on someone. So if that person's having really extensive blood tests every like 4 months or something, or 3 months, they probably pull them up and ask them why. So the doctors get questioned. So they don't usually like doing, if you went, for example, if you haven't been for like a million years, then the doctor would probably be like, that's fine. Charlotte. You'll be fine, you're healthy. But they'll be like, that's fine. He hasn't had tests for a long time, and they'll know that that's okay.
Yeah.
But that's why you go sometimes and the doctor will say, oh, you don't really need that, or, you know, or you will have to pay for things. So sometimes you will have to pay or go to a naturopath, and they can obviously have like access to a lab where you can go and get specific things done.
How often should you be getting blood tests?
Well, you should be going at least every year and just having a full health check of your bloods.
Yeah.
Checking things like your B vitamins, your iron.
Vitamins?
Yeah, vitamins.
Yes.
Magnesium, heavy copper, things like that.
Uh-huh. And if you're seeing it and that, like, what's the relationship or like the difference between when you're seeing a naturopath and then you got to go to the doctor for certain things, like you're going to them for your blood test and taking it to someone like you, or that's what you're doing?
Yeah, you can go and get your bloods done and then come to a naturopath. And you have to remember that also the ranges when you go to a doctor, they would look at, like you said, they'll be like, oh, it's all fine.
You're good to go.
Some doctors are good though, let's be honest. Some doctors are really good. And
there are some, but they're like, they got a massive waiting list. Like there's one doctor in Mullum that's really good, but apparently it's really hard to get to see him. Yeah.
They're truther.
I think they're onto it, yeah.
That's why. But others, they base all those levels and the ranges and things are based on the sick society. Because let's be honest, not a lot of us are healthy anymore, unfortunately. So they're having to base it on ranges which are out and not completely optimal. So a naturopath kind of usually has different ranges with those blood results. So they'll look at those and pick things up and probably look at things like correlations and things and think, oh, well, that's out and that's out.
And you mentioned like copper and things like that. Like how prevalent is heavy metal toxicity, and like, you know, how do people manage that, and how do people know if they have? I mean, probably everyone has.
Like 9 out of 10 people have heavy metal toxicity or something.
Well,
is that right?
Like copper, for example, I was saying about that.
Is that from pipes?
Yeah, it can be from pipes is really. I mean, I don't think there's as many copper pipes now. I'm pretty sure there's not.
I don't know about that. I'll have to get a plumber in here and ask them.
I have to ask the plumber.
Plumber on the show.
But why not? But copper is really.
Ask a plumber if he's had a colonic.
Do you think he would have? Maybe.
I'm sure there's some plumbers out there that would be.
Maybe in Byron, there's probably a few.
There would be a few plumbers.
Maybe they get over poo and they're like, I just can't deal with this shit anymore.
They're probably traumatised from all. I mean, they've seen enough, haven't they? Let's be honest.
True.
But what was I saying?
I forgot.
Something about copper. Heavy metals.
Heavy metals. Oh yes. So, like, this is an example as well. Autistic people usually a very high heavy metal toxicity. So you'll see on their bloods they'll have like mercury even, or it's high. Mercury can even they can be born with it. That's the thing, because they can't detox properly. So sometimes it's not even that they've been exposed to heavy metals. They've just got an issue like methylation where they can't actually detox correctly. So they accumulate heavy metal. And that's another reason why methylation is great, like knowing it, because then you know you're allowing your body, when you correct it, to detox correctly. So it's not just the environment, but all these heavy metals are obviously, like Rick said earlier, neurotoxins. And
Yeah, it sends people mad, doesn't it?
yeah.
Yeah, like there's that story.
That lady that was
The metal, like there's a Paul Check podcast and they interview the guy that created Metal Free. It's like this metal detox thing. And he's talking about like there was, what was it? It was like a lady who like literally lost her mind. She was walking around babbling, like homeless, all this stuff, just totally off, like what you would consider off the rails or whatever when you see them on the street. They did a heavy metal detox and they came back. They were like fine. And it was like some high level of metal toxicity that literally drove her mad. And it's like all these, you know, and then there's all the things like even in your teeth and stuff they used to use.
like putting mercury in your face, in your head. Wow. Like how dumb is that?
But people thought it was safe because of science, research. This peer review person, I don't know who that peer review person is, but there's probably a few studies saying it's. But that's the thing as well, you have to be very careful with as well, because someone can say, oh, I'm just going to do a heavy metal detox. But you actually have to be so careful with removing heavy metals from your body, because if you don't do it properly, you'll completely make yourself sick and you're not going to get those out. And your organs will be really overwhelmed and it's toxic.
Liver? Is it your liver or what is it particularly? Because if you remove them the wrong way, like it gets into your bloodstream, right? Or can poison you worse.
Well, the first thing you have to do when you're working with removing heavy metals is you make sure that that person's health is improved and well enough to do it. So you make sure all the emunctory organs are working. So that's like your kidneys, you have good digestion, your digestion's optimal, your skin, obviously so much comes out of your skin. So your lymphatic system, that's working. Liver, so you make sure they're all really well supported. And another reason why like even colonics are great, because how much of the detoxification ends up like in the gut. Things get carried out in the gut.
Well, when I did my colonic, there was like this green fluid that was coming out. They could see through the tube, and she's saying that's from your liver. It's like releasing toxins. So imagine if that's getting stuck in your gut, the toxins that your liver's finally releasing.
You hadn't
Can't be
eaten
good.
Green?
No, not at all.
Fasting. It
was completely I hadn't been eating for 10 days, nothing. And this green, like every now and again, it would just be like a little bit come through the tube, and she goes, there it is, it's toxins from your liver. Like, wow.
Because sometimes as well, though, you can go to a colonic, and this isn't to say about that woman, but just saying in general as well for people listening, because people can be like, oh, you've got X, Y, and Z, like on a colonic, but you don't actually know sometimes. But yeah,
I think this clinic's pretty legit.
It's good though,
Yeah.
So mental health, like if you're suffering from mental health to some, maybe even medicated, how, knowing all this stuff, like there's a few, how, like do people come to you for that, with like wanting to get off medication or like is there a protocol, or like where do you?
So I normally look at, because it would just be like I look at the environment that they're in. So the simple things to start with, like their job, their lifestyle, where they're living, if they've got family support. So you look at those things. Sometimes with mental health, especially if it's chronic, would look at ancestral trauma, because that's so big. And I feel like that is not spoken about enough. And some people, or especially when you do have mental health issues, they have no idea what's happened ancestrally. So I'd take a look at that. And then I would look at the genetics. I would always look at genetics for mental health as well. It doesn't mean just because they've got depression, obviously, it doesn't mean they've got like a genetic issue, but it can be really improved, and you just have to make sure and cover that, because a lot of the time when there are chronic issues and things like autism or schizophrenia or depression even, there is something going on. So I'd look at that, and then the diet as well, and that includes the gut, like looking at the gut. Because the gut is really big. And obviously I always would look at heavy metals as well, because heavy metals are neurotoxic, and it's very common. Heavy metals.
Isn't that interesting? Because it's so funny that the relationship between the environment, like, because we work with environment, you know, when we do collaboration design, we're crafting an environment to optimize the work to be done, you know, because it's like we create our environment and then our environment then creates us. So it's so interesting the way that you're working with environmental impacts, stresses and things like that, because it's informing and it is creating because you are sharing as well, like with your skin and your body, like it's having an exchange with the environment as well, isn't it? So it's kind of like making up your genetic like makeup or like your in a way. So it just goes to show your environment. And actually when we had Nelson on the show here, like our first guest, our producer Nelson, he was talking about how he crafts his environment, carefully crafts his environment to the people around him, you know, the positivity that, you know, has he got people around him that are positive and going after it, and like, you know, what is he surrounding himself with every day that's impacting his, you know, view of the world, his self-belief and all that stuff.
And everything. So it's totally true, you know, from every level, and, you know, at the broader scale, like if you look at the whole world right now in general, at scale, the environment is impacting us severely because we've been deteriorating it, and thus our health does the same, right? Because we are a product of our environment.
And think about as well, in COVID, there was so many more suicides since COVID because humans just didn't have the connection. How important is even just physical touch? People forget about that, like that physical touch, like hugging someone, being with family. These are all things that it's not always spoken about in society, but it does actually improve your mental health a lot. And you need to be around people.
It's like all the like I think like a hug, you get all these endorphins.
Oxytocin.
It releases oxytocin.
And your heart, like your heart vibration, like having it interface with other people, like being in vibrations of each other's hearts, like uplifts us. Not having that, it just
How far does that go out?
They reckon it's like 1.5 meters, like your heart.
Isn't that interesting?
So, it's like the 3 meters they're saying
meters.
To stay apart is like out of
the energy
out of two people's hearts distance away from each other, which is kind of like, what's that about?
And isn't it 1.5 meters? Isn't it?
What was it 1.5?
Social distancing is 1.5 meters.
Wasn't it 3 meters at first?
No, it's 1.5.
Oh, was it 1.5? Okay.
But if everyone's at 1.5, then it's
you're in the field.
Well, no, actually, it's not 1.5 plus 1.5, is it? But you're out of someone's heart field at 1.5.
Oh, and you think of it now, even with the masks, you can't. And I always see children look at adults that are wearing masks and they look so confused because children are trying to learn all the psychological and read and have those social tools.
And emotional bonds.
And build emotions, and you can't do that if you can't see someone's face. It's pretty big.
What about this? I saw something. I don't really watch TV, but I was at the gym and there was this story on where they were like about injectables, like facial injectables, and there were all these people getting injectables like Botox and collagen and whatever. They were, you know, what do you call it? Plumpers and is it
plumpers and fillers? And
that's it. But it was so interesting because they did this test where it was around empathy, and it's like the people that had the fillers and things like that, they diminished their ability to be able to be empathetic towards somebody else, something to do with facial recognition and like noticing like weak signals within somebody's face. And I'm like, this is madness because you've got these people doing like that was just about fillers and whatever that like the injectable stuff. Yeah. But then it's like, well, what about people with masks? What about children covering faces?
Most of your face.
Yeah.
So will those children be growing up? It just got me thinking without being able to learn empathy or be empathetic because they're not getting these signals around facial expressions and things like that. And what impact is that going to have on society when these children grow up? It's kind of scary.
And even the lack of oxygen, you're breathing in all of that, you know? Like we're not supposed to be having this like anaerobic environment like on our face.
No, and again, it's just the same as we've said before. We're it's a decision that was made with no, what we think to know with no research or knowing what the long-term effect
Well,
is.
depending what the reason behind what
or
it
knowing
is.
that it is going to be like that, but whatever the narrative is, it's like we're going to see the full impact of that, much
Years
later
to come.
in time. Yeah.
You just you have to bring it back to nature, don't you? And just think what actually feels good. Well, feeling good is being in nature, being around people, having a community, like eating clean. You always feel good when you've eaten clean.
Yep.
Like all these
Breathing.
Yeah, breathing.
Getting sunshine.
Sunshine's so big. Love the sun.
I mean,
so
so
important.
Everybody loves the sun.
I've noticed a massive difference since I've started doing 20 minutes at least in the sun before midday. I sleep better too. It produces a bit of melatonin, doesn't it? The sun. And I just, so it's something so simple, and especially with all the rain and the flooding that's been going up here, you just really appreciate the sun when it's out, I tell you.
And when you have like a healthy lifestyle like that, you're having the sun, you're having good sleep and things, you don't need to be spending all this money on supplements. Like I'm all like well and good, like you can supplement on things when you need to, like with the methylation, for example. Some people need to be on things. But if you actually do have a good lifestyle, you save yourself a lot of money actually, because you're not sick. You're actually happy as well. And then when you're happy, you can do more things. Things just flow in your life.
That's true.
Right. You way more able. Yeah, you're not achieving your dreams. You're not able to achieve your dreams if you're not happy. Like, because there's so many people go through the things and chase all these things that they think they want, but they're not happy in the process. And then their health suffers in the end, and then it's like, what good's all that for? And you end up, just like, it's a bit of and also like with all this stuff, having purpose in your life, like, and it's something that we're very big on, with the work that we do and as people, but as organizations and everyone, like if you have no sense of purpose in life, you're more susceptible to, just allowing all these things that we've been talking about to take over and never addressing them, because you're just kind of like in this resigned mind state. But when you've got a sense of purpose, and whether that is family or connection or nature connection, all that sort of stuff, happiness, fulfillment through happiness, not from these external things, that's going to change, not just the way that you feel, but it's going to create a ripple effect. If everyone was doing that across the world, we'd be living in a whole different reality. So.
True.
Meditation as well. Forgot to mention that.
Meditation.
So important. Breath work.
Ice baths.
Definitely
Chili
ice
willies.
baths. Chili willies. Chili willies for life.
Speaking of, we're going to the Schwitz and the chili, the cold plunge soon, aren't we?
Yeah, we are.
Had our vitamin D session earlier.
Yes.
We did. And on that note, Charlotte, where do people find you if they're interested in booking you for some naturopathy?
Naturopathy.
Naturopathy.
No. I'm on Instagram, so I am Charlotte, CHARLOTTE, Ivey, and then naturopath. I think I'm naturopath or naturopathy. Anyway, you'll find me there. Mm-hmm. My website is being built, so I have a link tree at the moment for consults.
Fantastic.
Very good.
So yeah.
And if you want to catch any great memes, you might work out Charlotte's other page at some point, but I don't know if you want to share
just
that.
Charlotte Ivey _ but I do share it. I'm a truther.
Isn't it BSc or something?
What's BSc?
Bachelor of Science?
That's
No,
my
that's
naturopathy.
You don't use a naturopathy?
No, I put
Charlotte
that-
Meme Lord page.
Yeah, I've got a meme lord page. I'm a lover of memes, aren't I? You know that.
Yes, well, you've told me that you lift them.
Well, memes.
Yeah.
I lift memes.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
I said, where'd you get all the memes from? And you go, oh, I don't come up with them. I lift them.
Oh, I came off like Telegram and
You're
stuff.
curating.
Yeah, I just collect them. I just save them. I'm like, I'll save that for later. And then I do a meme drop. Drop them all on my page. And haven't been banned from Instagram yet.
Okay. Well, hope your naturopathy page doesn't.
No, I don't do memes on that.
That's your YoPro account. you should be on LinkedIn soon too. We've been telling you to do that stuff. I think
Actually-
you're going to find a lot of good things come from LinkedIn.
I'm on LinkedIn, but I'll start
Posting.
dropping some things on there. Not memes, maybe not. It's too
The real
too
shit.
professional for memes, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So Charlotte's making a lot of good content on Instagram. So give her a follow. Lots of nice little bite-sized chunks of gold around health and all kinds of stuff. You just did a post around marijuana, didn't you? And
Yes.
and curry.
Curry, that was one
Curry.
of my last posts, and just saying how everyone needs a bit of curry in their life for their diet. And then I did a post on marijuana saying it's not good for depression because people seem to go to it as their herb, don't they? And it's not. It's not for all.
Yeah.
It's not good.
Interesting. So yes,
What
give
about
Charlotte a follow, and you can always
you guys.
find. Yes, we'll plug
you
ourselves. We
guys.
have to plug ourselves.
I'll plug you. Do you want me to plug you?
Yes, plug us. Can you plug us?
Guys.
Do you know our handles? You only just started following
No,
us.
I did follow you before. I just didn't follow my meme drop page. Design on Purpose, the two OG truthers.
Oh.
Just working from the heart. That's how I describe you both. You just do it. You get to know the business of whoever you're working with, and you fully just work from the bottom up. And just, how can I say this? I'm trying to think of ways to big you up now. You just
Keep
pros.
going, keep
You're
going.
just pros.
Pros.
You look at the whole picture of a business and really get to know like what's going wrong with that company, and look at all the areas where energy isn't flowing, and you fix it.
Systems.
All
Fantastic.
systems go.
That's good.
You're going to help me with my business.
Great drop. Yes, well,
Nice one.
we are helping you with your business right
Stop me
now.
right now.
So yes, follow us on Instagram at Design on Purpose, on YouTube channel if you're not listening on YouTube right now. Design on Purpose. What else am I thinking of? Telegram, WordPlay Studio. You can also follow WordPlay Studio, our design agency, at WordPlay Studio on Instagram and LinkedIn. And please like and subscribe if you found this episode valuable, or you feel like somebody you know and love needs to hear it. Send it to them. Pass it around, share the love, and we'll be back again next week for another episode. So until then, enjoy and see you then. Thanks, Charlotte.